We're live.
Hello and welcome to the Supercup here at Circuit of the Americas. And this is going to be exciting. I will be leading you through this double round. I'm Kacper Kolodziejczyk, and with me is Ellie Skinner.
Good evening, everybody. I am back after a one-round absence, and I'm back after the Singapore round. It's great to be back here alongside Kacper. So hopefully we can have some great racing like we did back in Singapore.
Oh, absolutely, hopefully. And Japan was even more amazing. You have missed out on some amazing finish at the end of the last race. And hopefully, if we can get anything close to what we've had in Japan, this is going to be absolutely exciting. And right off the bat, we are in about with 3.5 minutes until the end of qualifying. And already big news is that Alex Siebel is not actually leading. He's currently third behind Jeffrey Fournier and Dennis Jordan. Jeffrey Fournier having a fantastic time so far that he pulled it out of nowhere, so it seems.
Yeah, very surprising, because we came into this qualifying session with Siebel and Musk at hundredths of a second apart from each other. So whether Fournier and Jordan were sandbagging or something just shows that these two guys are going to be up there. But you know, you never know what Fournier and Jordan could pull out the bag.
Of course, and of course, Siebel can still pull out something. He is, in fact, at the moment in pits and is going to be preparing for his final run, as most drivers will be. Of course, we have a few rules in GPVWC that I'll quickly go through. In qualifying, we do have the necessity of coming back into pits before coming back out, so that's why you may see drivers on the slow pit in lap. We do have live weather, so we may be seeing rain, and a few more things, like we do have 2 races, a feature race and a sprint race, which we will talk you through a bit more after qualifying. But also, I would like we are streaming here in on three different places, in GPVWC, on simnews.tv, YouTube, and on simnews.tv Twitch account. And I would like to welcome everyone watching on all 3 platforms, and I will be trying to monitor some platforms intermittently, but I may miss messages, so if I don't read it, I'm sorry, but I will try to see as many as I can. And yeah, so right now qualifying so far, I think the biggest surprises up and top, but some drivers are a little bit slow. Like, for example, Kolodziejczyk, you should be expecting him a bit higher, don't you think?
Yeah, Kolodziejczyk is usually a bit higher than 9th. He's more running up at the front end of the field, but maybe just be having an offset, or he may have actually got his setup more set for the race. So it could be that he's actually not going for that one-lap pace. He's going to go for that long-run pace, which could actually pay out in the long run here in the feature race.
Yes, and of course the feature race will be the first race of the 2, and it is the race with a pit stop. So yeah, it's interesting. We're gonna have to see. Of course, what we will see as well is some tactics later on. But in qualifying, it's all about the pure speed, and we have no drivers trying the hard compound tires, which we have seen done before. But they're just so slow that it's such a disadvantage to lose so many places in qualifying.
Yeah, Circuit of the Americas is one circuit where you can overtake, but also so it isn't too much of a disadvantage to lose out in the qualifying, but you've still got to be able to get that move done. And turn 1's going to be one of those places where you're going to see some dives, some very late lunges, and people probably spinning out as well as they try and get the braking right.
Indeed, and something that's also catching my eye in general is how we have groups of drivers. The first 4 drivers are within 0.2 of a second. They're very clumped together. We're talking less than 8/10 between all drivers, or 0.08 of a second between all drivers in the front, and then behind we also have a big grouping between 8th and 11th. So it seems like a lot of drivers are grouping together, and there are a lot of rivalries. So we may actually see quite a bit of racing action on the track itself. So yeah, this is looking like it's shaping out to be a great race.
Yep, and qualifying's just ended as well, so these guys all on their final laps now. Paolini just had a moment. Bergstra's just had a moment on his lap.
Dennis Jordan
he was
has
coming in
aborted.
anyway. This is going to be one of those circuits where you need to not have a moment to get a decent lap in, and I think Kolodziejczyk's the only car on the field who hasn't had a moment. He's up by a 10th in that second split, so let's see how he can do coming through the final split. He's about to come into the penultimate corner. And Fournier has just finished his lap. No improvement.
And apparently we have Siebel on pole. He has actually jumped Jeffrey Fournier by 0.171 of a second. This is Alex Siebel with a final lunge. And Stefan Ruolt also in front of Dennis Jordan and Jason Muscat for third place. So Alex Siebel, Jeffrey Fournier, and Stefan Ruolt, the top three in qualifying. I don't think there's anybody who can go any quicker. Borja Milan's still on a fast lap, but I don't think he's quite able to get... No, he's not actually on a fast lap. He's going to pit. So, yeah, it's all over. Our top three is quite unexpectedly, if we look before the first... before the final run, it's Alex Siebel, Jeffrey Fournier, and Stefan Ruolt. So, yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Absolutely final seconds lunge essentially from Alex Siebel, and absolutely amazing lap. The only lap in this session to go under 1 minute 41 seconds barrier.
Yep, and that was absolutely phenomenal final lap there in the qualifying session for Alex Siebel. Just showing that he can go those tenths faster. He's got that time in reserve there. And just looking at the chat, and Malinek saying that he wants his fastest deleted, so whether he drops down the order or not is another question, but he's not using his fastest.
To be honest, he is in 13th place currently with a 142.6, and he has 0.4 of a second behind him. So his fastest lap will... he actually will stay in the same place. He only loses 0.2 of a second compared to his fastest lap, so he will stay. Also, apparently, Borja Milan did 2 laps with the exact same time, or just about the same. The exact same time, and he wants his last one deleted. That's some consistency right there, to have 2 laps with an identical lap time to 1,000th of a second.
Yeah, that is impressive by Borja Milan, just showing the pace he's got on those long runs and how consistent he is. Is a VEC driver and VLMS driver as well. Recently won the first round of the Season 2 of VLMS at Indianapolis in a chaotic race. So it's great to see him come here, keep that consistency going here for Supercup.
So here's also another piece of interesting trivia. This is going to be interesting because no driver has any grid penalty this race. None of the drivers currently present on the grid, at least. So unless no, we do not have it. So yeah, all drivers are going to be starting from the places they have qualified in.
God, that's going to make Chris's life a lot easier. Our amazing race director, Chris Williamson, as usual, means he actually doesn't have to move anyone anywhere, so he can finally relax for a race.
Yes, and to be honest, I don't think I've seen this happen before, really, where not even a single driver has a small demotion. But yes, it appears that all of the drivers have a clean record, and it will be it'll be very good to see everyone fighting for that, fighting from the places where they deserve to be in terms of a pure pace. And which means that it could be that even the start itself could be a little bit cleaner on the basis that there aren't any faster drivers in the back, really, unless they have deserved to be, which means that they're not that fast. Simple.
And I was going to say, Kolodziejczyk just saying to remove his fastest lap, which is the 141.9. So he's going to use his second fastest, which is the 142.01, which means he is only 300ths quicker than Batalla behind him effectively in qualifying. So Chris nearly did have to do some work there.
Nearly. Very close, but I think it's quite obvious that if you know that you have cut a track, and or even if you think you did, and if you were if your second time will keep you in the same place, you may as well delete the time that you are slightly worried about, because it's just a safety net. So why not take it when you can, rather than face a penalty later on.
Of course, and it's just something that everyone does. It just means that they don't have to worry about getting a back of the grid for the next race, because that is the bog standard penalty for going off track and not saying, "Oh, delete my lap, please." So whatever you gain in qualifying, you'll lose very heavily in qualifying for the next race.
Yes, and to be honest, what is the next track as well? Because that could also play a part in terms of Mexico. So actually, it shouldn't be too bad either way, because at Mexico you definitely can overtake. So even if they did get a grid penalty, it wouldn't be the end of the world. However, you don't really want to have to deal with something like that.
Of course not. Oh, sorry, Kacper, continue.
Oh, no, absolutely. No, you definitely don't want to deal with it. And we have seen Jeffrey Fournier last time around in Japan start from the back of the grid, and by the and getting a I don't think it was a reverse grid pole in Japan. However, it was quite high up, and he ended up actually taking the lead in the beginning stages, and kept it all the way until the final couple laps. So you can definitely fight in a weekend, but it's such a disadvantage if you're starting from the back of the grid. However, none of the drivers here are doing so, and to be honest, actually, one driver which I'm seeing that I think qualified fairly low down, and it's kind of surprising, is Kacper.
Yeah, it's unusual for Tapper to start very low down the grid. He's usually up there, at least in the midfield, but probably having one of the slower qualifying sessions of the year for him, and just sort of winding down now. But he probably will come back during the race and get some very good places and have some very good overtakes coming from him. He is a very quick driver.
He is very quick, and he has shown incredible pace. However, last time around, he wasn't quite how should I put it? Not quite a consistent driver. He made a few errors on his way. And yeah, so he'll definitely be hoping to get up in the standings throughout this race. And speaking of the race, we haven't actually mentioned too much about the races. We have two races in Supercup. Of course, the feature and the sprint race. The feature race being 32 laps long, and the sprint race being 19 laps long. Mandatory pit stop only in the feature race, the first race, and starting on the compound of tires that you have qualified in. So there is that's why some drivers, even if the medium tire, the hard tire is a bit slower, they sometimes prefer it. However, that wasn't the case here on this track. Although drivers starting in the back tend to have a strategy recently of coming into the pits for a set of hard tires after one lap, and then changing them back onto soft tires, or usually doing that starting on hards, going for softs, or going mid-stint, taking hard tires for one lap, coming back in, going for the soft tires. But generally, the drivers don't do much more than a single lap on medium or hard tires. Yeah, I'm always getting confused by the medium versus hard. It's just because that white label on that tire is so similar to a white tire on Supercup or Super League. Sorry.
The joys of getting Supercup mixed with Super League, like I did back in Japan. Also not Japan, in Singapore. That was entertaining. And the grid now being sorted for the race. Luckily, Chris doesn't have to do anything for once in his life, which is quite nice for him. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what these guys do strategy-wise, because these guys usually have a very good idea on their strategies. As they proved me and Kacper wrong at Singapore, and I think they probably proved Kacper wrong again at Japan. But they usually have some very good strategies up their sleeves when they need them.
No, I was smart in my ways. In Japan, I kind of realized it's going to be very high tire wear track, so it's going to be the same thing. So I'm, to be honest, Circuit of the Americas, fast sweepers pretty much everywhere. So I'm expecting, again, something very akin to the last couple of races where, again, I don't think we're going to see the medium for the hard tire for any more than a single lap for pretty much all drivers except for a couple willing to go for a gamble, like Stefan Ruolt did in Japan. And to be fair, he made it work, and he did quite well with it, but it wasn't quite as well as some other drivers on the softer, doing only one lap on the hard compound. So it's going to be, again, interesting, and I think we're going to see if anybody makes a mistake early in the race, they're going to go and change for a medium tire and try something sneaky, or the hard tire. And it could be very interesting, and again, it's quite a strategic race in Supercup in terms of tire wear, but it's also difficult to get an entire... You could do the race with a single pit stop. Technically, you can. But again, it would mean that you have to let the tires last as long as they can, because even very highly used soft tires are much faster than hard tires at any point, as long as they have any kind of grip. So it's a very difficult race strategically, and you have to be so careful on your tires.
Of course, you've got to be so careful on tires, especially here, because Kota is one of those circuits where tyre wear can be quite high if you're not careful, if you push the car just that bit too far each lap. And it's the same with any track, but this track does bite you more so, especially with the flowing first sector, the way it works out, and especially the very, very long right-hander in the just before the in the final sector. Sorry, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see guys going for actually a proper stint on the hard tyres here, and actually then running them for a while, because it may actually pay out for those guys.
I doubt it, on the basis that there are so many super fast corners, the first sector essentially. I doubt it, but that's my call, and we'll see. I have been proven wrong before, and these drivers are sneakier than I am sometimes. So we'll see about that, and we'll see how it goes, since we are nearly about to move to the race itself. So, to be honest, I think we're going to see, again, very long soft tire races. And as you said, this track can be very difficult on tires, and for anybody watching, of course, you can see if somebody is doing excessive wear. A lot of the time, if they're pushing very hard, you can see a bit of tire smoke popping out their tires, and basically there being a slight black mark on the road. Usually that means that you are overdriving a tire in some way. Although in our Factor 2, it's very specific where that is a way to drive it fast as well. It's a way to trade off tires for time.
Yeah, I'm just very surprised that Mason and Barnard are already on the grid waiting, because it usually takes a good long time for R-Factor 2 to sync up, and this is where you'll now see under the 30-second mark guys starting to go to the grid, because they know it will take about that much of the game to sync up for them. But it's very unusual for these guys to actually get on the grid that early. So unless it was Mason and Barnard, unless they've thought of something that nobody else has, they are playing a dangerous game.
I don't think it's that dangerous, to be honest, with only about 20 seconds at most of a difference in terms of the engine. We're fine on temperatures, and we are off on the formation lap, and taking you from pole position is our championship leader, Alex Siebel, and won the last 4 races. Can he make it the first driver to win 5 in a row, and maybe even 6? We'll see about that. First, take the first race. Jeffrey Fournier in second, going to be a great challenge after Japan's second race, where he came second. Stefan Ruolt in third place, with 4th for Dennis Jordan. 5th, Dino Paolini, with 6th for Jason Muscat. 7th for Wopke Hoekstra. 8th for Antonio Hrdjanovic. Borja Milan, a bit disappointing in 9th. And 10th, the same could be said about Tobias Polacek. He'll be them two definitely will be trying to get up on in the standings by the end of the race. Edward Batalla in 11th, with 12th for Tom van der Voort. 13th for Maciej Młynek, with 14th for Douwe Tapper. Again, a driver that will definitely try to get up in the standings by the end of the race and hopefully get out of all kinds of troubles. Rob Mason in 15th, with 16th for Gerard Batalla, 17th for Michael Bernard, and 18th for Mark Fuller. And that is our grid for the first race of the 2 today at Coda. And I think this could be exciting. Again, a lot of drivers very close on pace, so we may see a lot of battling early on in the race. And the start can be exciting. The first corner, of course, uphill, basically a hairpin to the left. It can be very tricky to get right. A blind corner, and I think it'll be a miracle if we all go by without somebody getting hurt.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if we don't see someone have any issue at turn 1. It's very likely for that to happen, but hopefully these guys will be able to get through there and then have a great fight coming through the S's, where that'll be another big crash zone here, and then another big crash zone will be on the braking zone after the long back straight.
After Japan, I'm hopeful. We haven't had a big first turn and crash for a little bit now, so I'm hoping that we're going to have a clean start. And as they're coming up to the grid, the drivers are getting ready. Of course, warming up their rear tires just to make sure to have grip off the line. And as everybody gets ready, I think this could be a great race and hopefully a clean one.
Yep, just the final guys slotting into their slot. Jordan is very far back in his grid spot, I've just noticed as well, and so is Milan as well. So those guys obviously trying something.
Lights, all of the lights, and we are off all right. The red lights are gone, and fantastic start from Siebel, already closing the door on Fournier, who just couldn't make a move even if he tried. So it's quite clean so far. Oh, there was a bit of a contact between Wopke Hoekstra and Hrelinovic, and now Milan also getting into that tackling. Polocek hit by Batala, hitting Hrelinovic, but nothing really too big there, just slight contact. Thankfully, we're through fairly clean. All cars still on the road, no one spun. I think we're okay.
Yeah, we finally made it through turn 1 okay, and I think someone's just had a bit of contact there going up through the uphill left-hander there. Nope, we've all managed to get through, so we are having a very clean first lap so far. Oh god, what's wrong with us?
Good stuff, and what I'm seeing right now is Polocek, Hoekstra and Milan are fairly close. Actually, Polocek really close to Wopke Hoekstra. This could be an attempted move, been behind Batala in 11th place, fighting with Hrelinovic side by side. Can he actually do it? And he can, just does it on the brakes, and actually in front of him, but Polocek and Hoekstra still going side by side. This is a lot of battles going on at the same time. But Polocek and Hoekstra up for 8th place currently. Hoekstra on the outside, trying to take the inside undercut into Polocek. Can't quite do it. Polocek closes the door. Basically is there. Wopke Hoekstra can't do it on the outside. And he is done. And now he has to watch out for Batala, who's gone through Hrelinovic, and now is possibly going to be attempting an attack. As if Polocek does, if Hoekstra doesn't run away.
Yeah, so we're actually got through the lap cleanly here in Supercup, which is great to see. And it looks like Hrelinovic is going to have a go at Batala into turn 1. He's going to go to the inside. He's going to late brake to the inside. Not going to work there. He's going to relax off, and he's now got his teammate very, very close behind him, along with Do Tapper very close behind them. So Do trying to make up places in this early phase of this race.
Yes, of course you have to allow it, right? You don't want to be losing time behind the slower driver. And this is the best time to do it because they can't really retaliate that easily considering the DRS is not activated until lap 3. So if you can do it, you will have an easier time of running away. So that's something to take into account when you're fighting early on in the race. So with that, Douwe Tapper and Tom van der Voort look quite close at the moment for 12th place. And I don't see that actually working out too well, although Tapper is going to go for a move on the inside, nearly actually touching with van der Voort, slightly going under his rear tire, and not braking earlier. He actually kept it safe, braked earlier, and Tom van der Voort just goes on the outside and fits into the corner, slots into the corner like as if nothing ever happened there. Even a bit of contact, but I mean, you know, nothing actually happened there, so I think we're fine.
Yep, we all got through there safely and cleanly. Now the top guys all just starting to pull away. So the DRS is now enabled as we start the 3rd lap here at Circuit of the Americas. Siebel 1.1 ahead of Fournier in 2nd, the Frenchman, holding a very considerable gap, but just outside of that DRS range at the moment. Same with Rouault in 3rd, he's 1.2 behind. Jordan is 0.7 behind Ruo, so if he can hold that, he's going to have DRS down that back straight.
Yeah, it's all very close, and to be honest, Fournier is still very close behind Siebel, which is good to see. Siebel's still under a heavy threat of it's not an easy cruise to the finish by any means, and of course it is still very early on in the race. So let's see how that develops, but at the moment, it looks like Fournier is actually within a second, so possibly next lap, or even this lap, he's going to have some DRS to help himself to pull up to Siebel.
Yeah, 0.9 at the DRS detection zone, so we'll probably use the DRS. I'm not sure. Nope, not using the DRS, it seems, from my end, so
probably going to be a lap early.
Yeah, it could be a lap early, just could be coming in at the end of this lap, but will be interesting to see what happens. And Fournier, as long as he can keep it in that second, he's going to be very, very threatening, as Jordan is getting very, very close to the back of Ruo.
Oh, this could be very interesting. So you may have two battles for the top, for the podium essentially, which could be very interesting. And even if the gaps do widen a little bit, I wouldn't worry too much if the last race is anything to go by, where we have had a bit of a gap, and then suddenly for the last few laps we have had 4 drivers fighting for the win. So so I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the race we still have those little tiny gaps. Although what happened in the final sector is that Fournier lost about 0.3 of a second to Siebel. It looks like he may have made a small mistake.
Yep, as Dennis Jordan trying to use that DRS actually just to close up to the back of Ruo down the start-finish straight. Not working out, so down that start-finish straight, the DRS not seeming as useful as it could be, so hopefully it's going to be a bit more useful down the back straight. Obviously, DRS isn't meant to basically hand you an overtake on the plate and go, here you go, sir. It's meant to help you. It's meant to just go, here's an opportunity, go for it. But it's just not proving that useful at all here at the moment, so let's see what happens down the back straight.
To be honest, the start-finish straight was never really an overtaking place unless somebody really messes up the exit. So it's really the long straight where you really let these cars open up a good bit, and where you can get the DRS to have an effect. Remember, the DRS really works its way really at the end of a straight. When the cars are going fairly quickly, you don't want that drag, and that is where it is the most effective, really.
Yeah, and as we say that, I've got to look down the order a bit because that was very close for Van der Voort, who nearly had a very good move on Tapper. But actually, speaking of Tapper, who's now 12, he's just taken him, and Tapper now having to defend very hard from Van der Voort in general here now, but he's making mistakes at the same time. So what I was saying about these guys pushing those tyres a bit too hard, he is slowly losing the tyre life in those soft tyres. So I still think the hard tyres could be very useful here.
Indeed. Also, something I need to point out is the 8th place battle, I think, is kind of close between Wopke Hoekstra and Tobias Polotzek. Polotzek making a couple mistakes I'm seeing, and now Wopke Hoekstra on DRS, possibly attacking into the first corner, maybe even before the first corner, side by side, on the outside. This is going to be a dangerous move. This is a corner where 2 cars barely ever fit together, and Polotzek just has the inside, and Hoekstra just has nowhere to go. No way to overtake Polotzek on the inside. However, they're nose to tail, and Hoekstra now has to watch out for a driver behind him, which is Eduard Patala.
Yep, and I'm just still looking at that fight. Those guys getting very, very, very close indeed. But a fight that's even closer is the fight for second between Fournier, Ruo, and Jordan. Fournier making a very costly final mistake out of the final corner, closing these guys right up, and they're going to come to the back straight now. And they're going to have a lot of work to do to get past Fournier. He is not an easy driver to get past.
No, and Alex Siebel definitely felt that last time around. Jeffrey Fournier knows how to defend. He knows how to be a fair driver as well while defending. But it's definitely not one that gives up spaces for nothing. So Ruold and Jordan definitely know Fournier, and definitely know it will be a difficult task. However, they do have him in his sight. As we have a battle for 8th and 9th
very
Polotzek and Batala. Polotzek already lost a spot to Wopke Hoekstra, who's actually made a mistake himself now. He's on the inside. However, his rear tires will be overheated. He can make it. Drivers barely slotting in their spots, respectively, for the double right-hander. And as now Batala is under heavy attacks from Prelyanovich. So we have a multiple way battle right here. And to be honest, Polosek going for Hoekstra now. On the outside, again, a very similar move we've seen very recently. Bit of a contact. Polosek keeps it on the outside. He still has an overlap. Can he actually make it to turn 2? He is still on the outside for the S's. This is going to be tough, and I don't think he can make it. No, he has to let Hoekstra go. That was a difficult but ballsy move, and it's a very good, a nice one to see. But he'll have to find a new way to overtake, because that is not going to work. Oh, okay, so basically now we have figured out the outside of turn 1 is absolutely a no-go.
That is, unless you can get a very decent run indeed. And Fournier is actually already going defensive here, as Rouault coming very, very close under the DRS. He looks like he's going to have a go as well. It's probably just showing his nose to the Frenchman going, I'm here, do beware.
Just excuse me, the 9th place battle again, Batala and Polosek. Batala actually overtakes Polosek on the outside of the of the back straight into a corner that's over 90 degrees to the left, I think, and somehow makes it stick. Batala now in front of Polosek. This battle is definitely not over, and now we have a bit of somewhat of a trolley train forming up. It looks like, with Kacper actually in 12th place now, possibly looking as high up as 8th place in this battle. This is quite crazy, and if Kacper can gain a few spots, he will definitely be happy with that.
Oh, I don't want to interrupt you, but Rouault trying to get down inside of Fournier into turn 1. That was very, very close, but he's now put himself under immense pressure from Dennis Jordan behind. They're going to have to go through the S's line astern, but Rouault having a very, very, very close dive down the inside of Fournier, just losing it at the apex.
That is a battle for far bigger stakes here. But to be honest, the drivers behind are still not letting go. However, I think it's fair to say that concentrating on the drivers in front is a good idea, and just keeping in mind that there is a battle behind. Considering the drivers in front, of course, are going to be far more important for our race results. As Rouault, I think, has a run. I think Fournier had a bit of a bad exit, and now Rouault goes to the inside. Can he actually keep it together? And he will have it before the breaking point. He has it. Rouault up into 2nd place. Fournier, where has your pace gone, man? You have been up there with Siebel. I hope he hasn't destroyed his tires.
He has been using his tires a lot.
So, yeah, at this point, it does look like his race pace definitely suffers. But, so it looks like Siebel, unless he makes a mistake, it looks like he has a bit of a runaway at the moment. So, I think we may be seeing history, fingers crossed, made for Alex Siebel, of course. However, with that said, I don't think Fournier still is on the very back end of Rouault, but he doesn't quite seem to have the same aggressiveness / keeping so close to Rouault as Rouault did to himself. Although, we'll see. As we have a bit of a battle for 8th and 9th through the S's now. Batala and Hoekstra. Oh, there's contact. Batala and Hoekstra turn around, and
that was never going to work. And that's what
going to end the race.
Yeah, so, that was never going to work. I saw them coming into that completely, and I just did not want to turn.
As weird as that is, that incident, I don't know if you're going to agree with it, but it reminded me a little bit of the incident between Vettel and Stroll in a real-life Formula 1. A little bit, in terms of drivers in for the S's side by side, except of course that was after the race and this was at high speed. And yeah, straight into the wall. Absolutely nothing he could do at that point. Although, again, we can't decide whose fault that was really. That's going to be down to the disciplinary committee later on to watch, really. However, it's sad to see Wopke Hoekstra having to retire so early.
Yeah, it is a true shame that he is already out of this race here so very early on. But I also want to bring to the fact that Muscat, Paolini and Milan are so quite close.
Yeah, they are very close. However, they haven't really been making a move. They've just been going along for the last while. And really all the crazy stuff is going on between P8 and P12 currently, where the gaps between the drivers aren't that massive. And we have seen some battles as Kacper actually touches for Aljanovic there, right? But nothing really happening that's malicious or any fighting happening there. So interesting enough, it seems to have calmed down a little bit as Edward finally makes his way into the pits with lacking the front wing after that incident with Wopke Hoekstra. However, at this point, let's see. We have a bit of a battle between Kacper and Radjanovic. They're very, very close, nose to tail, going onto the back straight. Possibly Kacper, if he can get a good enough exit, he may be attempting a move. However, we do have a battle between Fournier and Dennis Jordan. Dennis Jordan overtaking Fournier with a bit of a contact in through the corner. Fournier tries to go on the outside and squeezes Jordan a little bit. However, he does it so cleanly. And Fournier somehow manages to keep that spot, even though it looked like he has that place taken away from him already. It was a very good move from Fournier and very clean. Good driving. However, he's losing even more time to Ruold now, who has run away 2 seconds in front of him. However, whoa, something is jumping around in the standings for me, but I don't think that's... No, we're fine. Thankfully. However, now, Fournier has gotten a bit of a gap again, and somebody that now Jordan will have to watch out for is Jason Muscat. And on top of all that, now into this battle for the podium, drivers that I've said haven't really shown anything are joining in, all the way down to P7. So this is a massive battle for the third place, technically.
Yeah, it is amazing. And sorry, I'm just having a few connection issues at the moment. Just sort of a lot of weird spikes at the moment. So if that continues, I will sadly have to drop out. But these guys getting very, very close, and now that fight for second through seventh is getting very close.
Yes, it can definitely. Possibly, the drivers, all of these drivers can gain positions if a single driver makes a mistake, or if they manage to somehow up their pace and possibly even attack for third place. Speaking of attacking for third place, Dennis Jordan is right there with Jeffrey Fournier. Again in the same spot, but he doesn't quite want to or can't quite attack into the same area after what he has seen last time. And as we had a change of position between Maciej Młynek and Tom van der Voort for 11th place. And it seems like Maciej Młynek did overtake Tom van der Voort, and now van der Voort spins! Oh, he keeps it together after a slide. It was a half spin. Lucky that the corner was pointing that way. As we have had a bit of a change in position between Paolini and Milan, I think. Milan down. Okay, it's a glitch in the final corner. Apparently, there's a change in position. That's what gets me confusing. It's a glitch on the track timing. So there is no crazy overtaking maneuvers I'm missing in that sense. However, Dennis Jordan, again, on the very back end of Jeffrey Fournier. I think he's going to be trying for a possible move later on. Fournier a little bit less confident. You can just about see his car moving a little bit less confidently. Just slightly sliding his rear end about a bit too much compared to Dennis Jordan. It's working so far, but it seems like his starts aren't appreciative of that kind of a racing style. And just on top of it all, just behind, Jason Muscat is under heavy attacks from Dino Paolini as well. So it seems like there's definitely not a moment where you can stay in peace as Dennis Jordan goes for a move on the inside into Jeffrey Fournier and just leaves enough room as Fournier barely keeps the car together, coming out of the corner on after the back straight, and just keeps it in front of Dennis Jordan, who's now again having to deal with having Jason Muscat. Dennis Jordan has to keep on Dennis Muscat, or Jason Muscat. Yeah. Apparently, we had a change in positions between 8th and 9th. Tobias Polacek losing out to Antonio Hradianovic. It looks like a lot of drivers are somehow gaining quite a few spots, although David Kacper still in 12th place. As we have Polacek sliding, barely keeping the car together. Could it mean that Młynek could close down to Polacek and possibly attempting a move? It could happen, but actually Polacek in 9th place just lost about a second or so to Hradianovic with an absolutely massive slide, barely keeping it through the final corner. It's not an easy car to drive around this track. The Supercup car, as far as I know, it has about 500 horsepower in with that 3.5 liter engine. So, of course. And yeah, these cars are very, very difficult, and I don't think they quite have traction control. So they're definitely a driver's car, and they're definitely great cars for intermediary series. However, what I'm seeing is Jeffrey Fournier still under pressure from Jordan, but it seems to have slightly calmed down in that sense. At this point, Fournier, I think possibly Jordan's tires may be giving up a little bit comparatively to Fournier's current state. So even though he is a little bit quicker, I think the problem at the moment is simply that it's not a big enough difference for Jordan to be able to attack Fournier. And it's a very similar story with Jason Muscat right behind Dennis Jordan. I'm just also looking along, and I think a lot of the drivers behind have actually made themselves small gaps, as we have a bit of a battle for the 3rd place, and Fournier gets overtaken by Jordan into the first corner on the start-finish straight, and now Jeffrey Fournier will be in front of a great task to try and overtake Jordan, but I don't think he can quite do it. And now Jordan will have to run away as fast as he can and try to catch up to Roald, which will not be an easy task, while Jeffrey Fournier will have to defend like mad to defend from Jason Muscat. So I think Fournier, unluckily, is not going to do quite well this race. He will be hopeful to keep the 4th place, but it will be very difficult, and I don't know what he's planning on in terms of strategy. He could also be going for a slightly different strategy and going long on the tires he currently is on, and possibly attempting to only go for one pit stop. That's also a possibility, and I'll be honest, at this rate, seeing his current pace, I wouldn't be surprised if he tried that. Something that I'm finding a little bit interesting is our top speeds, because it looks like, or actually that could also be because of DRS, but that actually gives even more of a point. The DRS in these cars appears to be giving around 7 kilometers an hour of a difference in top speed. I'm just looking at Alex Siebel's top speed, and it's 273.8 kilometers per hour. Pretty much everybody else in the top 10 has a top speed of 280.4, which would suggest to me that that is the difference between the DRS and no DRS, considering Siebel has not had a single DRS activation in this race, considering he was in front for the entirety of it. So I do think that is the difference. Also, Jason Muscat actually just got by Jeffrey Fournier in the S's, so that's an impressive move. It looks like Jeffrey Fournier just made a bit of an error coming out from the final bit of the S's through the first sector, and now Muscat in front, and he's under attack from Fournier. Fournier trying to go on the outside on the back straight, into a corner, going for an undercut, trying on the outside of the next corner. I don't know if he can do it. Can he? It's impressive, but he can't quite carry the speed to make this happen. Jason Muscat is now Jason Muscat is in 4th place, as we have had Dowie Tapper in the wall. I'm not entirely sure what happened there, but definitely on his own, my cameraman Mike Pitman is telling me. So apparently Dowie Tapper not having a great race again, as we have Dina Paolini as our first of the top essentially, that is pitting in for a scheduled pit stop. So he is definitely going on a soft tire, I would say. Or if he is going for a hard tire, he is only here for a lap. And that is correct. He's going for a soft compound tire. He will go, and I think he will pit in on the final lap, or with 2 laps to go, onto the hard tire to satisfy the regulation. Tobias Polotzik, another driver, as is Dowie Tapper, for a set of soft tires. I presume Dowie Tapper with a bit of damage possibly from the wall contact and with changing tires to, again, soft compound. It looks like soft compound is preferable for by the drivers on this circuit, like it has been for the last for a lot of the rounds this season. And what it appears to be is that these drivers are going to be pitting in for about 1 or 2 laps on hard tires. Possibly one thing to keep in mind is that a driver could be coming in for a set of hard tires and ditching them the lap after that, even mid-race. That has been seen to work before, and does give you a different strategy, of course. And it does cause a bit of confusion to other drivers. With that, at the moment, as a side note, before adding anything about the current on-track action, currently the lead in the race is 6.19 seconds. Alex Siebel leading from Stefano Rold, who's leading from Dennis Jordan, who is further 5.4 seconds behind. So the gaps are fairly big. A lot of it is caused actually by Jeffrey Fournier, who's now under heavy attacks from Borja Milan. He's not, again, having a great race. Speaking of pit stops, by the way, as well, Antonio Hradianovic in for soft compound of tires. As the only driver currently on a different set of tires is Michael Bernard, currently on a hard tire and absolutely last, and just letting some of the drivers go by after he made a bit of an error, and is barely going along on the track. And we have another driver on the hard tires, Rob Mason, going to the hard tire, possibly trying to attempt some kind of a move, hoping to undercut in some way strategy call and gain positions in that way. Rob Mason not having a greatest of races. However, he will be trying to get as high as he can. Currently, I think the closest 2 cars on the track would be Jeffrey Fournier and Borja Milan, who are very close to each other, as well as Muscat and Jordan. However, I don't know. Borja just doesn't quite seem to have the same kind of ability to overtake as the other drivers had earlier. Maybe he's just not quite quick enough as Fournier goes into pit. So Fournier pitting in on the half time, or exactly the half mark of the race. And I am actually really wondering what type of tires he's going to be on. I think he's going to be soft. No, it's the mediums. He's gone onto a medium tire. Now, we have seen Fournier do this before in Singapore, coming in for a medium tire and changing for a soft the lap after. Winnick into pits, changes for softs. Van der Voort into pits, changes for softs. So it looks like the only one driver who is crazy enough to use hard tires at this point in the race is Jeffrey Fournier, who's came in right in front of Dino Paolini, who of course was in pits just before. This is going to be absolutely fascinating to see if Fournier is going to only be on this tire, on the set of tires for this one lap, or if he's going to be keeping it going for the entire stint. If he is, this could be interesting comparison of pace to everybody else, because pretty much it could give them an idea of how many laps they can afford to stay on a hard compound of tire in the latter parts of the race, and how hard they can currently push the soft tires. As Rob Mason is in the pits, and as I expected, he only went in for the regulation hard tires. So he did the same thing as I've seen earlier, as we have seen in Singapore from Fournier. As we have Alex Siebel in pits, our leader is in, and I think he's gonna go for another set of soft tires and pitting in on the last lap for a set of hard tires, like he has done in the last couple rounds. He seems to really like that strategy, and I think he was one of the first ones to really use that strategy effectively. Or actually, no, that was actually Fournier back in, I think back in the UK at Silverstone. I think I recall something. And Fournier into the pits, or Jordan into the pits. Jordan onto the soft tires. Fournier did the regulation change and now is back onto the soft compound of tires. This was just purely a strategy call to do 2 pit stops in a row. And that does, it seems to be paying off quite well in the past. It's just, I am really afraid that he could be stuck behind Battala and Van der Voort now. Because those 2 drivers have, to be fair, they have not pitted. So they could be coming in soon. Sorry, Van der Voort has pitted. It is Battala that has not. So it could be that he may be stuck behind at least Van der Voort. And that could be a very, very difficult time. And he could be losing out quite a lot. It's very similar to what it used to be back in Formula 1 when refueling was a thing, where we had, of course, the drivers with a shorter refuel or longer refuel, and you risked to staying either in traffic. As we had Stefan Rolt, who tried to go into the pit lane, missed it, and still came in. He had to stop against the wall, so he will be losing quite a lot of time. That looked like about 3 or 4 seconds, which could, in fact, if it all goes pretty badly, it could lose him as 1 or 2 places, to be honest. So at this point, Ruold could be facing with being down in 3rd or 4th. He's currently in 3rd. Just so he has defended to be in front of Jordan. But I think the biggest danger to him currently will be Jason Muscat, who is still currently leading. However, he is still due to pit stop. However, from what I'm seeing and I'm hearing, Stefan Roll has a bit of a problem with his cooling, or had a bit of a problem with his cooling in the engine. I think it's not exactly used to standing still for very long. Every time he's on throttle, his engine is smoking. That, in our factor, means that your engine is not quite entirely critical, but it's very close to it. So I think he'll be fine if he can get a bit of air into his radiators, which he can't at the moment. Well, he can, but I think it will take him a couple long straights before it stops cooling. And if he pushes it very, very hard, or stops smoking, but if he pushes it very hard, it's going to be difficult for it to cool down. So hopefully that didn't do enough damage to stop his car in tracks before the end of the race. But I think it'll be it'll be good. I think the cars are tough enough to last feature race, even with a little, even with just a tiny bit of engine smoke coming out for half a lap. However, Jason Muscat into the pits, our current race leader, coming in, probably going to be fighting for 2nd place afterwards. With that Stefan Ruolt's mistake earlier on, as Muscat leaves the his pit box now, and I think Ruol will have him. Looks like it'll be very comfortable. However, what it looks like as well is that the lead is a far smaller one, and Muscat actually side by side with Jordan out of pits. It looks like Jordan had a 1-up on Muscat again. So he was a little bit in front of Muscat before the pits, but now They're very close. Muscat literally keeping in within a meter of Jordan through the first bit of S's until his aerodynamics stalled and enough is enough. And now the lead, due to that mistake of Roald, is actually 13 seconds. Alex Siebel is in for a treat of a win. As we have Mark Fuller into the pits, and I wonder if he's going to be going for soft tires. It's getting a bit late for a soft tire change, to be honest. You really want to do it by about half of the race, as the cars get lighter, of course, and such. But you don't really want to be going that long on the first set of soft tires, because you will be losing pace and you will gain a lot by changing the tires and within the 50% mark, and you can manage a bit better in general. And you can use more of those tires in the end. However, something that's very interesting is Dennis Jordan is having an absolute blast of a time, going the fastest out of anybody for the middle sector in this race so far, and now sitting on the back end of Ruel, and is going to still be trying to possibly make a move soon. He's going to be closing down on the start-finish straight. With the DRS enabled, he's not quite close enough. Ruled with the fastest final sector of anybody in this race. So we are getting some fantastic pace from these guys. They're a little bit further behind the leader, but to be honest, this is still great pace coming from those drivers. For what I'm seeing, another battle that's also on track is a little bit further behind Hreljaninovic and Milan for 6th place. So if we don't see anything really happening between 3rd and 4th place second place and 3rd place, this is also another one to watch out for. Milan under threat from Hreljaninovic. At this point, it looks like there was Ruel did get a little bit of a jump, so now it's 7/10 of a second between the two drivers, and that's not quite enough for Jordan to close down. Enough for the DRS to matter. However, it's a matter of possibly a lap or two before we do get a possible move. As Ruolt is actually putting in a really impressive lap or times. Actually, here is a fun fact. The first sector was identical to 1,000th of a second between Ruolt and Jordan, while the second sector was 700ths of a second faster by Jordan. Both of them way faster than Alex Siebel, within about 3/10 of a second, which is quite impressive considering how fast Siebel is. Of course, all depending on the final sector, as we'll see. And Ruold goes fastest in the final sector, and now puts in a lap that's nearly on par with the fastest. It's basically on par with the fastest lap of the race, as Jordan goes a bit slower for the final sector. So at this point, it looks like Ruold has a fantastic pace and has a challenge going on for maybe not a win, but definitely challenging for that second place. Also, let's see our little battle between Milan and Hreljaninovic. It's a little far, so it seems like Hreljaninovic doesn't quite have the pace at the moment, as we have Gerard Batalla in pits again and going for the hard tires until the end of the race. Of course, Gerard being involved in the incident early on in the race, if I recall correctly. No, sorry, it was Eduard. Different Batalla. However, the two Batallas are a bit further back this race, not really doing very well at this point. Of course, Eduard being a bit higher up before the incident with Wopke. So the Batalla brothers far down. At this point, I'm looking, and Polotzik has to be a bit wary for that 8th place of Maciej Młynek, who's very close behind. And it could be a challenge for 8th place. And Polotzik, though, to be honest, Polotzik doing an okay job, starting from 10th place up into 8th, with only 2 retirements this entire race so far, which is pretty good, as I should have mentioned, Michael Bernard has retired about 3 laps ago. Just to watch out. I think Winnick and Polodziejczyk are the closest at the moment, as Polodziejczyk makes a bit of a mistake and now is under heavy attack from Maciej Winnick for 8th place. Winnick and Polodziejczyk side by side. Polodziejczyk just with a mistake through the final corner, not getting the traction. Winnick on the inside, Polodziejczyk not being able to do it. Can he do an undercut? He's trying. He actually tries to make it work on the outside of turn 2. This is going to be difficult. If he can keep it going, which he cannot, he could have kept it into the S's and possibly kept his line. It's a tough thing to do, but Winnick makes it happen, and even with the undercut from Polodziejczyk, Winnick up into 8th place. So we have a stand-in for this race who's leading the Formula Challenge Championship, Winnick. So Winnick is getting around this race this season. He has been both in Formula Challenge, where he's leading the championship. He has been considered a super sub in Super League, and he's also here in Supercup, doing quite a great job, to be honest. That place is not a bad place to be in a Supercup race. It is fairly competitive, even at this level. So it is not Super League, but it's very, very difficult. And a lot of the drivers here do compete in Super League at times, and including Maciej Winnick. As Polodziejczyk still not giving up and still trying to keep behind Winnick and possibly attempting a move soon enough. And of course, it is worth saying again, I have mentioned it before, Fournier is behind right now, but that is because pretty much all drivers in front of him are still due a pit stop for a hard compound of tires. Most of the drivers will be competing in for the final lap. Fournier has already done his due diligence in terms of his tires and the compounds he needed to put on the car for a lap at least, and now is going for a full-on attack mode, and they're going until the end of the race on this set of tires, and I think he will be challenging for the top 6 if all goes well for him. Something to keep an eye on still is for Lianovic still with Borja Milan, although they are a little bit difficult on each other. Polodziejczyk barely keeping behind Winnick at this point. They're not quite able to catch up. But something that's also interesting in my opinion is that Ruold actually is not getting away from Jordan. For a moment it looked like Ruold is quite a bit faster, but at this point Jordan was way faster through Sector 1, slower through the final 2 sectors, but overall his lap time was pretty much identical to Ruold, so they look like they are matching their own pace very closely, which would indicate to me that we could be seeing a battle for second by the end of the race still, and there's still a quarter of this race to go. So I'd say it's going to get really interesting by the end of the race. Winnick and Polodziejczyk still very close. Still nose to tail. And I think this could, if Polodziejczyk can keep this close through the S's by any chance, it could mean no. It seems like Winnick is just this little bit quicker through the S's. It seems like that aero push from the car in front just doesn't quite allow Polodziejczyk to keep behind Winnick, as he barely keeps the car on track, in fact. And now he will have to have an amazing exit onto the back straight, as he absolutely on the brakes, he nails it and is very close behind Winnick. I think Winnick is going to be under a heavy attack from Polodziejczyk. Winnick going very defensive. Polodziejczyk on the outside attempting a move. He will do it. He will get this place before the corner itself. And although Winnick just giving enough room for Winnick to take the inside, and just doesn't have a traction. He goes on the Polodziejczyk goes on the AstroTurf, and just doesn't have any traction to compete with Winnick with. So unluckily for Polodziejczyk, he has lost that place again, even though he seemed to have that secure. So unlucky for Kolodziejczyk, but Winnick is still in 8th and still going to be fighting with Tobias with all his might. Another couple drivers, again, still very close, Milan and Hreljanovic. They are within 0.7 of a second of each other, and they are seemingly unrelenting in terms of trying to either gain or defend their positions, but Milan just not doing anything wrong, and I think as long as he can do that, that 6th place is in fact safe. But we're going to have to wait for really the end of the race to see if he can keep it or if he cannot. And I wonder, Kolodziejczyk again is a bit further behind this time, but him on the brakes is something that's absolutely amazing to see. Going onto the back straight, again, similar situation. Kolodziejczyk right behind Winnick. Going on the DRS, he just accelerates and is already side by side. He already has the corner. Can he cut in before Winnick? Winnick is better on the brakes in this corner. It's very interesting, that dichotomy of Kolodziejczyk being better on the brakes for the corner before and Winnick on the corner after. And Winnick trying on the outside, barely squeezes between Kolodziejczyk and the grass on the edge of the circuit, barely keeping 2 wheels within the track limits. And somehow he keeps it still in 8th place, with Kolodziejczyk still having just a taste of that 8th place in his mouth from literally just a few corners. And now Winnick has to defend from Kolodziejczyk on the start-finish straight. He's very close. And it's going to be very interesting if Kolodziejczyk can make a move. I think it's close enough. The draft and the DRS can help him. Winnick goes defensive on the inside. Kolodziejczyk goes for an insane move and he backs off as soon as he sees that is not viable, because otherwise he would have been on the grass. Winnick doing some very harsh but very, very fair defensive movement, all things considered. And Kolodziejczyk keeping it very fair and keeping it safe, keeping everybody on the track. And good to see good fighting. As we have apparently Rob Mason just got a place from Mark Fuller to get 15th, and he's now in the points. Well, that is well, Rob Mason definitely has points now if he can keep this going, so that's definitely something. Oh, at this point we have one spot that is not being awarded points, and that is Mark Fuller. As we have a battle between 8th and 9th again, Tobias Kolodziejczyk in front of Maciej Winnick. So it looks like he finally made it work. Finally made that start or that back straight work for him. But now Winnick is going to be putting him under attack. This dichotomy of I am about as fast as you, but I can overtake you every time. It seems like it's fascinating. But I think it is showing that both these cars are set up in a different fashion, kind of just making sure that that they're stronger in a different area, and I'd say that's how they are getting their pace and their differential in terms of I can overtake you and then I can overtake you purely based on pace worked. Although at the moment it looks like Winnick is a little bit slower possibly, although that could equalize soon after Kolodziejczyk gets a few more laps in and starts maybe wearing the tires a little bit more. Something to keep in mind is Antonio Hreljanovic is doing his best laps of the race. They are about 3/10 quicker than the driver in front of them, which is Borja Milan. Borja Milan now going defensive for 6th place, kind of really going all over the track, trying to defend when he realized that he doesn't have to defend from Hreljanovic, which is, yeah, it makes sense. He had absolutely no chance of Hreljanovic attacking. It was just not quite close enough. But now Hreljanovic is going to be attempting possibly a move soon on the start-finish straight or the back straight next lap. if he can just about keep that gap. Which it seems like it's very tough for Hreljanovich to keep it through the fast corners. It's possible that he's set up for corners, which would mean high downforce, therefore a high susceptibility to, as he barely keeps it away from the wall for the final corner, which would mean that that car is very susceptible to dirty air. Of course, the higher the wing, the more susceptible you are. As I'm just looking a bit more, and Winnick is kind of very close behind Kolodziejczyk. He was closing down, but didn't quite have the speed or the overlap to attempt to move again. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if we've seen Maciej Winnick go and overtake Kolodziejczyk again on the back straight, because that seems where you mostly have the chance of doing so. And Kolodziejczyk not very confident through those those final bits of the S's in the first sector, and Kolodziejczyk really doesn't have a very big gap to Winnick. Winnick, if he can be good enough on the brakes, which he is currently, he can. Kolodziejczyk makes a bit of a mistake, and Winnick, I think, is going to be marginal, as we have Hreljanovich. Slight touch of Milan into the corner right after the back straight, and Milan gets back on Hreljanovich, and now Milan still in 6th place, and Hreljanovich is just left with a bitter taste of 6th place. He definitely wants to get that place again, and I think he may as well be able to do it, considering he has already attempted to. So Hreljanovich seems to have a very similar pace to Milan. And again, it seems like when you have a similar pace, it's possible to overtake, which is interesting to see, since a lot of the time it's actually the other, you have to have a fairly big gap, or a fairly big pace differential to make it easy. However, Hreljanovich keeps very close to Milan through the first sector. Hopefully he can keep it together through the entirety of the first sector. There aren't that many laps left, mind you. We are about 2.5 lap. We are 2.5 laps left to go, which would mean that Hreljanovich definitely has to speed this up a little bit if he wants to take that 6th place, which, of course, is the guaranteed spot for the reverse grid. So 6th place is the safe spot. Reverse grid, I will explain it as we finish the race. However, enough said that spot is the secure spot. Something that I've just noticed, but that has seemingly fixed itself, is Hreljanovich ping is quite skyrocketing. It's 343. Thankfully, he's not warping, but I'm hoping that that's nothing serious. But his ping was jumping a little bit. It's stabilized now, but as we have Paolini tries to go into the pit lane and spins on the entry. He will lose out a lot that way. I think Milan and Hreljanovich will have those spots because of this mistake. I think Paolini just made a massive error. You don't spin on the entry into the pits. That is one of the massive errors that you never do in racing. Or if you do, it is pretty heartbreaking, and lest your mind the Hamilton. He is, and now Dino Paolini is on hard tires, and he will end the race on that set of tires. And Mike Pitman is asking me if he is. Yes, he is. I'm seeing that on live timing, and I'm seeing it on my screen at the moment. So apparently, it is his screen that is wrong. But yes, Dino Paolini is definitely on the harder compound of tires, and now is going to be taking that car to the finish. However, what that shows me is that Jeffrey Fournier is already in front, which kind of means that Fournier is going to be taking I think it's going to be only about 6th place, maybe 5th at best. as we have our leader spit in on the final lap that you can do it. Pitting in for the hard compound just to satisfy the regulations, as Eduard Batalla also in pits. And Antonio Hreljanovic, disaster strikes. His engine fails. And Hreljanovic with a retirement from this race. Let's see what happened to Hreljanovic. I could only assume that it was a downshift. Oh, it looks like yes, it was too fast of a downshift. As we have Vroald, Dennis Jordan, Jason Muscat, Borja Milan in pits, and all of them on now harder compound of tire. As we have Muscat coming around, as we have him battling with Jordan. Jordan on the inside coming, oh, so close. Muscat keeps it behind Jordan. This is the final lap, of course. Jordan in third place, Muscat in fourth. They're still keeping the places, but right in front of him is Stefan Revolt, who's about 2 seconds in front, but he's seemingly smoking a lot. Tom van der Voort in pits, Douwe Tapper in pits. Lots and lots of drivers having the same exact strategy, which seems to be working. As Ruolt, engine failure. This looks to me like he overheated his engine too much earlier on in the race, and now it has reaped that the engine has completely died. And now Stefan Ruolt, a sure second, is a victim of his own cooling error. He has had his cooling too low and made mistakes which caused the engine to overheat, and now he is out of the race. And wow, I haven't seen that many engine failures in a long time, as Alex Siebel is about to cross the line for the 5th time in a row, winning a race. Something incredible, and as far as I know, that is the first time it ever happened in Supercup that we have had a driver win 5 races in a row. What an amazing performance from Alex Siebel, with Dennis Jordan coming in second. Definitely unexpected, however, he will be very happy with it. Jason Muscat coming in third. Fourth for Fournier. Fantastic stuff. He's very lucky with Ruolt and Hreljanovic, I'd say, with their failures. However, Fournier with a fantastic 4th place in recovery after having quite a disaster start. As Milan ran out of fuel, but he is already finished across the finish line. Just about. Dino Paulini 5th, 6th for Borja Milan, 7th for Tobias Polosek, which would be quite a good place for Tobias. 8th for Maciej Młynek, 9th for Tom van der Voort. Somebody's going to be happy is Douwe Tapper in 10th place. He started quite further down. Eduard Batalla is going to come in 11th place by the looks of it, with Rob Mason in 12th. However, they're still about to cross the line, and it looks like we're all set. Stefan Rold with the engine failure, still classified in 13th place, still gets points. Eduard Batalla in 14th, 15th for Mark Fuller. Antonio Hreljanovic still gets classified, but however, he is outside of points. Michael Bernard in 17th and with the DNF, and 18th for Wopke Hoekstra, who has finished his race with an accident. So that hopefully, well, at this point, Alex Siebel will be hopeful for 2 races in a row again, which would give him a title of 3 full weekend double wins. That is something incredible, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that is absolutely unprecedented. I think Mike Pitman would know more about that than me. Five has never been done. And we have had 4 across more than 2 weekends, which Siebel has already done 1 up, which he has done last time around, 2 weekends in a row of wins. And now he's keeping it up for the first half of this round, which means 5 races in a row and is possibly going to one-up it with 3 entire weekends of wins. And I think he also got pole positions in every single one of these double rounds, which I need to confirm, but I'm pretty sure that that is the case. Sometimes, excuse me, I may need to. Sometimes I may need to take a drink. My throat is a little bit getting dry, so the dry. And I think we will play a little bit of a video as we are going to be heading into the warm-up. So I will see you in a few minutes. And we are back. Hopefully with my voice, thanking the bit of a drink I've had. So hopefully I'm going to be good for the rest of the race. And of course we have the warm-up, and we have had our reverse grid number announced. The number, in fact, is 10. The highest possible number. This means that, let's say, Alex Siebel is not the happiest man right now in terms of trying to get his 6 wins in a row. However, it is not impossible. He has shown that he definitely can do it, with, I think, with 9 places or 8 places last time around. So he definitely still has the chance, but it will be just very much more difficult. And this track, I think he just about should be thankful that it is a track where you can overtake on, and we have seen a few actions. So with his pace, this is going to be possibly a bit scary. It's going to be sketchy. It'll be very close, and I think he won't have any time to faff around, and he has to basically overtake everybody instantly, the instant he can. But that is for him to worry, and somebody who's not the happiest about his reverse grid pole, which, to be honest, it seems like every time I see somebody getting a reverse grid pole, they're unhappy with it. It is Dowie Tapper, 10th place. He will start from the first place, and I think it's going to be fascinating to see if he can keep the top 10. His pace not being quite up to scratch this race, the last race that is, and I think it could just about hold him within the top 10, and I think that would be a very, very good result. However, another driver we have talked about is Matthew Winnick, who will be starting third. So a lot of drivers which haven't really had the chance in the first race now will be up in the front. So for anybody, I'm now monitoring the YouTube comments on GPVWC. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. If you have any comments, I will also probably try to see if I can refute or answer them. I cannot unluckily monitor more than one source at a time, and even this means that I'm missing out on some other bits and bobs. However, again, if you wish to let me know something, especially if you're possibly somebody with inside information, please feel free. So now, second race, 19 laps, sprint race, no pit stops required. All drivers on soft tires, absolutely no questions asked. I think we will see a little bit of tire saving, although we have seen drivers do fairly well on tires the last race, so I think we're fairly okay. They seem to finally catch up with how to treat these tires, which seems to always take drivers about half a season or more to really understand what the tires do, etc., etc. As we are about to move forward the race, I really wonder what we're gonna see at the start of the race. A lot of fast drivers down in 10th place and thereabouts. This will be scary. And of course, we also have drivers like Stefan Revolt, who's very, very fast. Wopke Hoekstra, who's fast. Antonio Fredianovic, who's fast. All back of this grid. So I think this could be a fascinating race, and I hope to keep it clean, but this could be a bit difficult. Also, apparently we have had a question mark removed from the game, so somebody didn't connect in time. Or something happened anyway, and but we have 18 drivers, and I think we started with 18 drivers in the first place. Yes. So we have all the drivers that started the first race, starting the second race, which is good to see. It's not always the case, of course, but it is absolutely the way we want to see it in races where we have, in rounds where we have more than a single race. So as the drivers are setting themselves on the grid, this time, hopefully, no one having their engines blow out in the middle of the race. However, of course, this is a shorter race, so we shouldn't really see that happen. And with that said, we are taking up for the formation lap, and Kacper in the pole from reverse grid pole. He will definitely be he wasn't very happy with it, but he will be looking to possibly stay in the front as long as he can. Tom van der Voort right behind him, with Maciej Młynek in third place, with Tobias Polodziejczyk in fourth. A driver that started off with a bit of a worse weekend, but definitely it turned to better at this point. Borja Milan in fifth place, with Dino Paolini in sixth. Seventh for Jeffrey Fournier. He definitely did very well in the first race. Jason Muscat in eighth. Ninth for Dennis Jordan, with 10th for our championship leader, and currently on a 5-race win streak, Alex Siebel. 11th, Jared Batalla, with 12th for Rob Mason. Quite good considering he wasn't really running up that high for the race. 13th for Stefan Ruolt, with 14th for Eduard Batalla. 15th for Mark Fuller, with 16th for Antonio Hruljanovic. 17th for Michael Bernard, with 18th for Robke Hoekstra, and a lot of the drivers will be hoping to make up a lot of places early on in the race. And remember, this is only 19 laps. So this will be a sprint race and a half that we're going to experience right here. And I think we will see a lot of drivers do quiet. I think a lot of drivers will be very aggressive at the start of the race. Again, trying to gain as many places as they can, especially in the second half of the top 10, and then in the kind of a latter quarter of the field. So, as the drivers are about to make their way to their grid slots, I think, honestly, for this race, I could make a little prediction, and I think that out of these drivers, what we're going to see is Tobias Polodziejczyk get this one. I don't know why, but I feel like he's the driver that has the highest chance of possible win out of top 4. And I have a weird feeling like Alex Siebel has a way too hard of a job to do to overtake as many as 9 drivers in front of him, unless there is a mistake somewhere. As final, and Paolini is the call from Mike Pitman. And that is very fair. And as we have 3, 4, and 5 red lights, and here we go. Bad start from Kacper. Kacper sleeps on the grid start on the start, and then Tom van der Voort actually gets him on the inside. Has the cleaner, has the line, squeezes him. Kacper actually keeps his lead somehow by a miracle, even though he has had an absolutely atrocious start. Tom van der Voort is still behind. Drivers behind seem to have gone through cleanly as we have a spinner. Alex Siebel is affected. And Alex Siebel was involved around that, but Jared Batalla is in the wall, and he's now dead last. Jared Batalla, absolutely no chance of really doing anything in this race at this point. Alex Siebel is not really involved in anything. Actually, Alex Siebel is still in 10th place. I just seen his name pop up when I had a spinner in front of me. However, he now has Stefan Ruolt to worry about right behind him. As I'm seeing, there's also a bit of a battle between Fournier, Polodziejczyk, and Młynek for 3rd place, as Fournier does a double overtake. Can he actually keep it from Młynek? Yes, he can. There's a bit of contact. However, I think that corner was very much Fournier's. And wow! That's a lot of places lost by Młynek. Młynek down to 7th place from 3rd in a single corner. That is insane. As Siebel, contact. And apparently he has knocked Jordan around. So Jordan is now in 12th place, and Ruold also had to go off track and is now in 14th, attacking Hoekstra for 13th. Hoekstra wide after a half spin. He still keeps the place. Oh, Hoekstra barely keeping it together. Ruold, I think, will have it. And something in front as well. Młynek and Paulini. Młynek defending from Paulini for 7th place. Here, I don't know what to look at the moment. There's too many, and there are too many of these battles. But side by side, apparently Kacper is now running away from what I'm seeing, a 2.5 in front of Tom van der Voort, who is actually another further 2.5 in front of Jeffrey Fournier, who, to be honest, Fournier has made up a lot of spots already. He started 7th, I think, and he's already up into 3rd place in front of Tobias Polocek. So I think hoping for Polocek or Paulini win at this point is a bit of a, yeah, there's no way they're winning. If we have Fournier so high up, unless there's a big mistake from Fournier, I think he will be, I think actually Fournier at this point will be the challenger for the win this race. If he can just catch up to Tom van der Voort, which he definitely is doing at this point. However, Kacper is actually doing really well for his time. 1:43.2 was his first lap, so we're gonna have to see until we finish the second lap to get a proper understanding. Because of course, the first lap, a driver will always be a little bit. The times are dictated by where you are on track. And apparently, right now, Jeffrey Fournier is the fastest car on track. He is 4/10 quicker than Douwe Kacper, and the second quicker than Tom van der Voort, who's right on his sides in front of him, less than 0.6 of a second in front of Jeffrey Fournier. I think he's gonna go for a move on the back straight, but through the S's they go. Jeffrey Fournier keeping right behind Tom van der Voort. And you can see Tom van der Voort using his tires as much as he can, overheating them though, and I don't think that's going to do him very well. He's definitely giving it all he has, but van der Voort not able to keep Fournier behind in terms of trying to keep him behind on time, really, more than anything. And Fournier, right on the back end, ooh, sliding all over the place from Fournier. Can he actually do it on draft alone? Because DRS is not enabled for another lap. I think he can do it on draft alone. He's closing down on Tom van der Voort. He's moving on the inside. Is he gonna brake later? Yes, he is. I think he's gonna overshoot. He's going sideways. He overshot the corner and he has to give the place back to van der Voort. Van der Voort gets it. Just about, and that will not do Fournier any good on those tires. Great stuff from Fournier, but just outbraking himself just a tad. This is, of course, this can happen. However, I think Fournier just wanting to be that little bit quicker. He was reactionary rather than proactive in terms of how he where he actually had the braking point for that corner right after the back straight. Of course, both of these drivers doing worse times because of the battling going on. They are now down 3.3 seconds and 3.785 seconds down on Douwe Kacper, and it will be a very difficult task to catch up to Douwe. However, I think Jeffrey can do it if he can overtake Tom van der Voort. And from what I'm seeing, he's currently right on the back end of Tom, and he's just about keeping his composure through the S's, although Tom is going a little bit quicker, using up more of his tires. Although, for the final few bits of the S's, he's not quite able to keep that gap that he works for a bit earlier. And now, Fournier breaks a bit later, gets a good run, and I think he's going to have him this time around. He will have the DRS. He is a little bit further behind, but he has the DRS and the draft. And here we go. Here is the Fournier train. Can he do it? He's a little too far. And luckily, Fournier ended up being too far. And now, Fournier has to worry about Polocek right behind him, who has, on the other hand, to worry about Borja Milan, who has to worry about Jason Muscat. However, something that's interesting as well is Alex Siebel cannot get through Dino Paolini and is still in 8th place. This is very unusual for Alex. It just seems that he cannot do much about it. And remember, this is a sprint race. You have to make every lap count. It's very difficult. And apparently, Ruolt went on the outside of turn 13 to overtake Kreljanowicz for that 13th place. So that's some impressive stuff from Stefan. And he's still very far down. Not a great race from Stefan after that first lap incident. But of course, still a while to go. And you can't really... you can't say that he has no chance as of yet. But Fournier still on the back end of Tom van der Voort. He is now way closer than last time. Van der Voort not quite able to keep the same composure through the S's like he did last time. The gap is way smaller. Fournier better on the brakes, nearly hits the back of Van der Voort and now is right on the back end. I don't think he even needs the DRS, but he will get it. He will get the DRS and the draft and the possible move on the inside, but he chooses the outside. Slight defensive move from Tom, but Fournier does it on the straight way before the braking point, and now Fournier is with a chance for the win. He's now chasing Douwe Kacper, and you will be hunting him down as fast as he can, while Tom van der Voort has somebody else to worry about, Bas Polotek, who's already attempting moves. What an aggressive driver, but very clean and still trying to overtake Van der Voort, and right behind there's still a scrap between Muscat and Milan. So a lot of battling going on, but I think we have seen that there are only 2 places on the track where you really can overtake. And Van der Voort now losing time, already a second behind Fournier. That shows you how fast Fournier is compared to what Van der Voort was requiring him to drive at. Basically, differences of about a second a lap. However, apparently, Fournier was losing about a half a second a lap to Kacper every lap due to Tom van der Voort being in front of him. And now he's gaining. Last time around, he gained 0.3 of a second. It is very much possible that he will be gaining more time now. However, Kacper is driving an absolutely great race. He's just sticking his head down and doing what he has to do, keeping in the lead. And a driver who wasn't very happy with starting from the pole, I think right now is very happy he did. It's a very similar situation to what we had with Fournier last time around in Japan, except Fournier didn't even start from pole position. In other news, Paolini still keeping Siebel behind for 7th place. We still have that big, massive battle for 3rd place and 5th place, and right behind Siebel, we actually have a bit of a battle for 9th place as well. So, battles, battles, battles. I think that's the name of this race. And I think rightly so. But at this point, I have to admit, I think Alex Siebel's win streak will come to an end. And after the race, once we see where we are, I will try to see a quick calculations possibly to see where we stand in terms of championship standings. However, it will just be very, very rough. And let's see with... At the moment, it seems like Van der Voort still under heavy pressure from Polodziejczyk, but Polodziejczyk seemingly doesn't quite have the same pace as Jeffrey in terms of not quite able to keep as close as he nearly drives into the back of Tom. And apparently Fournier was actually slower last lap. He was by 1/10 of a second than Douwe Kacper, even though he was in free air, so that's very interesting. And Kacper put up 0.2 of a second in the first sector alone over Fournier. So that is And apparently Van der Voort has been overtaken by Kolodziejczyk. Yes, he has. Kolodziejczyk now into third place. Van der Voort with a possible attempt at a move soon. Or sorry, Milan with a move on Van der Voort soon. It looks like Van der Voort just not up to scratch with his pace. Unlucky to see, but he was a reverse grid driver, so you kind of expect to fall down the grid, all things considered. Jeffrey Fournier, this lap around has matched Dawi Kacper down to a 10th of a second. So it has been a up and down, I think is the best way to put it, lap. And it seems like Fournier will have to pull something incredible out of the hat to really close down on Kacper, who's, to be fair, is doing a fantastic job this race. And let's see, Paolini still under heavy attacks. Although Paolini has the advantage of being able to use the DRS on the driver in front of him, who's Jason Muscat, who's of course also battling with Borja Milan. It's a massive train of drivers, so if something was to happen, Siebel is still technically there, but doesn't look very good for the German. Something that looks interesting is Milan isn't quite able to. Oh, Van der Voort still has DRS from Kolodziejczyk, so Van der Voort still has a lifeline against Borja Milan, who, on the other hand, is doing all that he can to overtake Tom Van der Voort in any place that he can. I'm looking for a bit of a battle at 9th and 10th between Edward Vitale and Dennis Jordan. They are very close together, and Dennis Jordan, of course, having a bit of an unlucky start to the race with a reverse grid start, and then being forced, or having an incident, put it that way, on the first couple laps. However, Dennis Jordan is going to be attempting a possible move on the back stretch, if this is anything to be believed by his pace at the moment and his him keeping so close to Edward Vitale. And Vitale just not quite having the pace today at all with that 9. Currently running in 9th due to other people's misfortunes more than anything. But to be fair, he's doing impressively so. And apparently, Fournier was 2 tenths down on Kacper again the last lap, which does appear like as if Kacper is just doing some amazing job, or Fournier is running out of tires. So I have the two options, and it's 4.2 seconds the gap between the two leaders. And to be honest, Fournier is running away from Kolodziejczyk, that's clear enough, but it's just not quite able to keep or close in on Dawi Kacper. So I think to be honest, Mike and I both underestimated Dawi Kacper's abilities by the looks of it, and to be fair, so did Dawi Kacper, who was really complaining on how he really didn't want to be the reverse grid pole sitter. So Dawi Kacper definitely using his unwanted position as much as he can. However, Fournier, 4 tenths quicker last lap around. Well, 3 tenths quicker last lap around. As we have somebody supposed to be here that isn't here, that just tried to join. Possibly. Either way. Yes, it looks like somebody called Lucas Zimmerman wanted to join. However, what we have is a no battle. Well, we have battles, alright. We just don't have anything close at the moment on track itself, except for Siebel and Paolini. But it seems to me like Paolini just doing a great job and not giving even an inch to Siebel. And it seems like there's just this massive train of DRS cars that just cannot do anything to each other. And at this point, I can definitely confirm that drafting and the and DRS increased the top speed by these cars by about 7/10 of a second, or sorry, 7 kilometers an hour. Because now Alex Siebel is doing 280.4, like most drivers. I think they're topping out their gearboxes actually, while Dawi Tapper, who's in the lead, is doing 273.7. Very similar numbers to what we had last race. So, fun fact, that is the difference. However, the only driver I see with more that's up in the front is Tom van der Voort, who has 286. So I think he has a slightly different gear ratios fit into his car. But it doesn't, and possibly wings. As apparently Tapper is the fastest man on the track currently, and that is indeed the case. Also the case through the first sector, not quite. Dennis Jordan did a better first sector, but of the drivers in the top 9, he is. So, to be fair, he's doing a very good job, and Jeffrey Fournier just cannot find an answer. But it seems like we're getting a lot of just trains at this point. I'm trying to figure out if there's anybody who's not in a train and battling. And I think I found one. 9th and 10th, Edward Battalla and Dennis Jordan. Edward Battalla defending from Dennis Jordan, who's trying for a bit of an undercut after the back straight. And not quite getting it. The drivers are fairly still docile. One that I'm seeing is actually for 12th place as well. Antonio Hrljanovic and Wopke Hoekstra. They do have a very small gap. Hoekstra seems to be a bit quicker. And what I'm also seeing is that Eduard Battalla retiring from the race. Is this a disconnect? I believe so. Yes, it is just a clean disconnect. Very unlucky for Eduard Battalla, but doing very well this race, and he has now retired. However, Hrljanovic and Wopke Hoekstra, that's a fight that's interesting enough because there is no DRS for Hrljanovic, so he has no defense in those terms from Hoekstra, who now has the DRS and he nearly hit the back of Hrljanovic, overshot the corner, and now I think that battle is over for a few laps. Ouch. The moment we pick up a battle. But what I'm seeing now is Tom van der Voort and Kolodziejczyk. Interesting. Van der Voort still keeping with Finn about 8/10 or 7/10 of a second, in fact. And now Kolodziejczyk making mistakes. Van der Voort keeping very close eye on Kolodziejczyk and nearly in the he is in the DRS range. I'm just not sure if he's going to be able to overtake him. Not quite on this straight, not quite this time around, but he is closed down. And possibly going to attempt to move soon enough. Thankfully, no engine smoking as of yet. We're not seeing much of a problem with the engines this time around. I think drivers have learned their lesson. However, Jeffrey Fournier has gone 5/10 quicker no. They have done an identical time. As we have 11th Hoekstra and Hrljanovic. Hrljanovic on the outside of Hoekstra, who just overtook Antonio. And they're very, very close. Nose to tail. Antonio looking like he's trying for a crazy maneuver, and he's not that crazy. He will be possibly going for a start-finish straight. It looks like Hoekstra made a bit of a mistake. However, I don't think it's close enough. Hrljanovic will have to pull out something amazing to overtake Hoekstra on the inside of turn 1. No, it would have to be a dive bomb, and that's not exactly a good idea at this time. Apparently Tapper has actually gone off, and we have had Fournier gain half a second last lap. So this looks to me like the game is on again. So Fournier, if he can maintain the pace that he's doing, that pace is unmaintainable for Dowie Kacper, that's for sure, at this point in the race. And I think that if he can, there could be a battle for the win by the end of the race. Definitely at least 1 or 2 laps. That is if he can, if Kacper either makes mistakes or can't keep his pace as high as Fournier's. It's going to be tough, but I think Kacper can do it. However, it seems actually something interesting to everybody. The top 9 drivers have really have fairly similar lap times, all in the low 23s, except for a couple who have done who are doing high 42s. But generally, all drivers are doing 43s, low, mid, high 43s, depending on traffic. Very interesting, in fact. And they're basically towing each other around. That's something that Mike Pitman has mentioned. And yes, that is true. So all drivers have to be essentially in the same kind of a time range due to that drafting. However, it is still interesting to see because even the drivers who aren't towing up in the front, Fournier and Kacper, are still doing the same time. So, as Dennis Jordan puts in the fastest first sector of anybody this race, that's interesting. Dennis Jordan putting in some world of hurt, even though he is right behind Siebel. So, interesting. You'd think that driving behind Siebel would compromise his speed for the first sector, considering the aerodynamic dirty air will be hurting quite a lot. This train is so very close, but no one can make a move. It's absolutely crazy. Because it's literally nose to tail, all the way from P3, would you believe, all the way down to P9. Nose to tail train, and anybody could still technically take this home. Take this podium home, that is. I think the race win at this point is gonna be decided between 2 drivers though, Dowie Kacper and Jeffrey Fournier. Jeffrey Fournier going another 3/10 quicker than Dowie Kacper last time around. Currently is not quite, is possibly about the quickest. He's not quite the quickest driver on the track. That goes to Stefan Revolt. However, he's very close to that title currently, with and pulling out some great times and attempting to close down on Dowie Kacper. However, his first sector is a bit slower. There's only another 5 laps after this, or including this lap, I think, actually. So, yes, it is including this lap. So, 4.5 laps to go for Fournier and Kacper battle. Fournier has to pull something amazing out of the hat to be able to close down to Kacper, let alone overtake him. While this massive train of drivers, where Siebel is actually attacking Paolini now, right behind. He was side by side out of the corner, and now Paolini finally is going to be have to settle with Siebel possibly overtaking him. Better on the brakes from Siebel. Siebel forces Paolini to the outside, and Siebel gets through, finally into 7th place. I think this is way too late for Siebel to be able to take the win. However, he's still up for even more points. He definitely can still get 3rd if he goes fast enough. He doesn't have much time, and he has to do it quickly and smoothly. Of course, drivers batting in front of him will help him in many ways, in terms of drivers being slower as Milan goes sideways. Milan now under heavy pressure from Muscat. However, I think both of them will have DRS. Therefore, Milan not quite as threatened as the one could be. However, Siebel now behind well, not too far behind Muscat, and it looks like we're going to have Siebel already on the tail end of Muscat, and what looks like we're gonna have Siebel really trying to go for that 3rd place in the end. However, it's gonna be tough. It's still the same train he was in earlier. It's just a different driver that he's fighting with currently. And I think I can officially say that Jeffrey Fournier has absolutely no chance of catching up to Dowie Tapper at this point, unless something really messes up with Dowie Tapper, which hopefully not. However, Jeffrey Fournier is 3.5 seconds behind, and it was slower last lap. He's slower in the first sector. I think he's going to be slower, and I don't think he has he only has a sliver of a chance of catching up to Dowie Tapper. And there's the battle for fourth. Tom van der Voort under attack from Borja Milan. Milan trying to do something very similar to Siebel. And possibly letting Muscat through as well. Tom van der Voort loses 2 places in a single corner as Milan goes sideways. Muscat not able to capitalize on it. However, we also have van der Voort trying to get back on Muscat. Side by side, contact wheel to wheel. Contact between Muscat and Tom van der Voort. Muscat goes around. Van der Voort loses places. Van der Voort losing traction, hitting the side of Muscat, which turns Tim around in a pit maneuver. What a disaster! And that is absolutely a disaster for Jason. Tom not doing very well, barely able to keep the car on the road at this point, it looks like. And what we're seeing now is Alex Siebel attacking from Milan. Already up into 4th place, going for the attack, already successful for it. Alex Siebel now having 3 more laps to possibly attack Polocek, catch up to Polocek, attack Polocek, and get that podium. That is the most he can do, which will not be 6 wins in a row, but it will still be 3rd place finish from starting from 10th place in a track where, as it turns out, when cars are in a group, it's nearly impossible to overtake. So Siebel closing down on Polocek, the first sector. Wow, 4/10 quicker. And van der Voort, apparently there's van der Voort trying to attack Ruold. How is Ruold in 8th place in all of this? Van der Voort, an attack into the on the straight. He can't. He touches with Ruold. Lets Ruold go now. Ruold in front of Van der Voort and keeps it. Siebel, his personal best in the middle sector. Already up on the back, on the rear wing of Polocek. Polocek having to make his car about as wide as the track and a bit to make it to make it impossible for Siebel to overtake. I think Siebel will be able to get to actually overtake on the start-finish straight. He has the DRS open. He goes for the outside move. That is Polocek going for a really good defensive move on the inside. I think Siebel can't make it really. He does for the undercut, and now it was all done and dusted. Polocek having no chance, and now Siebel, I think, is in a place where no one will be contesting him, and he cannot contest anybody else. He has done the fastest lap of the race of anybody on that lap, and I don't think anybody will be challenging that time at all this race. But I don't think he will be able to catch up. It will be 2.5 a lap, and that is not enough to catch up to Jeffrey Fournier. It is technically a 2.5 a lap, a lap and a half to go. 3, 4, 5 seconds. No, impossible. Impossible unless. Oh. No, it isn't. It's 5 seconds. 5.6 seconds. No, 5.6. Yes. Sorry, having a bit of a conversation with Mike Pitman here. He was, he thought that it is 5 seconds to Dowie Tapper, but it is not. It is 9.5 seconds to Dowie Tapper from Alex Siebel. Jeffrey Fournier is 5.6 seconds away from Jeffrey Fournier, and actually, Jeffrey Fournier is struggling on his tires. And we are on the final lap, and Dowie Tapper over 4 seconds in front of Jeffrey Fournier, doing a fantastic job from the start of the race. And I think this is the first race win this season for Dowie Tapper. As we have, or possible win, we still have a lap, as we have a battle between 5th and 6th. Milan and Paolini just barely barely not touching each other through that first corner. And now Dennis Jordan attacking Paolini as well, but going through the S's. Oh, can they do it? Oh, this will be very close. I think Milan will have a... I think it is going to be okay. They all have DRS at this point, and they only have about 2/3 of a lap to go until the end of the race. It is not very far at all at this point. Kolodziejczyk is going to be the one that's going to be under the most immense pressure for 4th place. Kolodziejczyk versus Milan. Milan has the DRS. Is over. I think he's going to go for an overtake. He is on the outside. He's going to do it. He's going to have it already. He has it before the corner even comes into play. Milan overtakes Kolodziejczyk on the final DRS zone of this race, and Milan goes up into 4th. Kolodziejczyk in 5th, and now he has to watch out for Paolini. Paolini still charging, trying for a move on Kolodziejczyk, very close. And with that said, Kacper is about to cross the line and be our first race winner for 3 rounds. That is not Alex Siebel. What an amazing race from Kacper. Jeffrey Fournier comes 2nd. Alex Siebel comes 3rd. Borja Milan 4th. Kolodziejczyk 5th. 6th for Dino Paolini. 7th for Dennis Jordan. 8th for Stefan Ruolt. 9th for Jason Muscat. 10th for Van der Voort. He still kept it in the top 10, although not having the greatest race. Antonio Vrljanovic, 11th. Maciej Młynek, 12th. 13th for Wopke Hoekstra. Or sorry, Wopke Hoekstra ran out of fuel. Wopke Hoekstra ran out of fuel on the final lap. What a disaster. Final couple corners, yes. Oh my goodness me. That is Kacper's 2nd ever win, not in Supercup, at GPVWC. So this is a moment to celebrate. Apparently, and this is very interesting to see, his only other win was in 2015. Also in the same country, the US of A. So congratulations to Kacper for a fantastic race, and he is now doing donuts of celebration, and you better do that because you don't win GPVW races that often, and that's not to do with Dawi, it's just to do with there are so many drivers that are very quick, and there's only one place every race that you can say won the race. So Kacper, fantastic stuff. Jeffrey Fournier, to be honest, 2nd place was a fantastic finish. Alex Siebel, great stuff as well. Mark Fuller ended up actually getting a point thanks to Wopke Hoekstra's fuel missing in the car. And Jared Batalla getting a couple points. Maciej Młynek having a bit of a disappointing race. Stefan Ruolt managing to get 8th, even with a couple hard moments in the race, and of course in the race prior. But to be honest, great stuff, good racing, clean racing, and I think this is a good race, and especially one to go into memory of Kacper, who again, this is his 2nd only win in GPVWC, and I don't know where in Supercup as well, is it? Or is okay, he has actually won in Formula Challenge. Excuse me, I have misunderstood. But it's his 2nd only win in Supercup in Formula Challenge. Or in GPWC, sorry. Oh, gosh. Exhaustion is getting to my brain. I'm terribly sorry for all the mistakes that I've made. It's not the easiest job to be on your own. And I am going to look through the comments quickly. And of course, if any of the drivers wishes to have an interview, I welcome for an interview with us. I will be staying here for a few minutes to see if anyone wishes to have a bit of a chat. And tomorrow we'll have a Super League, our Premier Series, the Super League here in Coda as well. You will find us on at the same time on GPVWC YouTube, of course, live, and you will be taken through it by the Downforce TV's Jake Sanson. On cameras, I think, is Argo Teeter, and Josh Anderson as a co-commentator. What we will, of course, you can join simnews.tv next week for the Supercup show if you wish to go into more detail in terms of the coverage. Of course, we can only see so much when we commentate, and these guys go through it bit by bit and dissect it to its core. Of course, if you also wish to join us for a very similar show in terms of Super League, I welcome you as well next week to a show hosted by myself, Jake Sanson, and Ben Willis about the Super League. And apart from that, let's see. We have a couple interviews. Yay! At least we do this week. Let's drag them in. Well, gentlemen. So we have two drivers here who, well, were the top two in the second race and doing quite well in first race as well, Jeffrey. So let's start with yourself. Great first race, going for the same strategy you've been going for the last couple races with the changing of the tires for a lap in the middle stint and then coming in again for soft and going to the end. Do you think that that was a good strategy, or if you were to drive again, would you think that you would prefer to pit in on the final lap?
Good evening. I knew that I had a slower pace than all the guys at the top, so my goal by doing this strategy was just to avoid the traffic and yeah, have the soft for the last lap in case of the close racing. And well, I can't say it didn't work as I get before. So yeah, quite happy with this.
Yeah, you were very. There were a couple of drivers in front of you who actually had their engines explode as well. So you were quite lucky with that as well. However, very definitely congrats, and talk us through the second race as well. Because we have seen you have a couple of battles in that race.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I was trying to close the gap quickly to Dari, but sadly I lost too much time in the traffic, and then Dari had a good pace, so no way to close the gap on him, and he deserves it. He deserves it, I think. So good job to him.
Well done, and congrats again on the podium and the fourth place for the two races, Jeffrey. Good stuff. Dowie, I seem to recall you were quite unhappy with getting the pole in the second race.
Yeah, I was. I still am to a degree, but yeah, it's just in race one there, nothing went my way. I just spun twice. The setup didn't work for me. I felt uncomfortable on the brakes. And then between race one and two, Jason sent me a setup he had been working on for race one, but since I didn't quite get it back in time for quali, I didn't get it, so I had to sort of work with what I had. And then race two, yeah, I mean, the setup just somehow clicked, and I don't know, it just worked. There's really not much else to say.
Yeah, of course, you can change the setups between the race one and two. That's something that you can do in GPVWC. You can't change the setup from qualifying to race the first race, as far as I know, but you can change it for the second race. But yeah, congrats on the win, and you do realize that this is your second ever win in Super Cup, and it's actually in the same country.
Yeah, 2015, I think it was also at this track.
Seems to be very lucky.
Yeah, but to be fair, back then it got red flagged, so
okay,
it doesn't quite feel the same, if you get my drift.
Yeah, but here it was all merit, and congratulations to you. And you know, the first race was a bit difficult again. You said that your setup wasn't quite up to snuff, and it clicked in the second race. But hey, in the end, you got a race win, and I don't think you. That's something to be unhappy with. I think, to be honest, it was very good stuff, and your pace in the second race was very impressive. So I think that's pretty much it. Would either of you like to add anything?
Not really. I mean, Apart from thanking, obviously, Jason for helping me out between race 1 and 2.
All right. And all right, if we have no more comments, I think I'll be closing this down then. So, final couple comments from myself. Great stuff. I love clean racing. Another couple rounds with clean turn 1 in both races. For the most part, we had a couple contacts in the second race in the next couple corners. However, it was still a decently clean race. And some fantastic racing. Very difficult to overtake in the second race. A massive train, of course. And in general, I did quite enjoy it. And of course, 5 race wins in a row from Alex Siebel. Not taking the 6th one. That's Dowie Tapper's doing this time around for taking that one away from him. And I think it's good stuff. So that's enough for today, and hopefully I will see you tomorrow, same time, same channel, in terms of GPVWC at least.